Welcome to the Business Spotlight Podcast. My name is David Beeson. I'm your host for today's conversation. My guest today is Christian Patel, the founder and GP of Laplace Capital. We're going to be talking about his business, journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and share a peek of what it's really like to build and operate a business. Christian, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here today. I would love for you to give us a little bit of background of who you are and tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me here. It really means a lot. I love what you guys are doing and giving that spotlight to many of the entrepreneurs out there that definitely have many great stories to share. So yeah, just giving you some background on Laplace Capital and what we do. We're effectively acquiring distressed startups ranging from seed to Series A by providing operator resources plus capital resources in order to get them to cash flow positive within a certain time frame. Um, and the reason and how that got to that place is a little bit about myself. I came from venture and being an operator in the startup space myself. And I always found during that time and stint, there was a lot of startups, especially ones that we would invest in, that would end up stuck at certain periods of time. And typically they would have something like a solid ARR, fundamental like breakdown on product. They would have a lot of really good things going for them. But because they weren't venture scalable, they would effectively just get left on the grapevine to die. And so I felt that both on the investor side and then going into the operator side, I also was in a lot of these startups myself, getting stuck in these certain areas and not being able to really have a way out. And so at Laplace Capital, I took the culmination of all those experiences, my network of other operators who are very, very similar in that same sense that have that experience in early stage. And we turned it into a fund that can repeatedly and pretty much systematically go into the industry of distressed startups and provide that second wave of opportunity that they wish they had before. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's super cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So basically you guys go in and help out like businesses that are kind of in a bad spot at the moment.
yeah. Typically in venture cap, just to kind of give some more context on it. So just to explain it in layman's terms, venture capital inherently is a flawed investment method. It's
Hmm.
not flawed in the sense that it's bad. It's just the model itself is meant to inject a ton of capital into an innovative space. And typically, when you cut, let's just even say 150 checks a year into a bunch of seed stage companies, after years 4 and 5, you're starting to see the top performers, and then you're starting to see the low performers. And then right in the middle are the companies that don't really fit in either one of those categories. And so the
Gotcha.
VC model itself doesn't allow to do follow-on capital to anything under the top performers after that time. And so inherently, it's a model that works for the way it operates traditionally. But this market, as it keeps growing, we're finding a lot of those companies just sitting there with a lot of opportunity. And so that's effectively what we're trying to target.
Yeah, yeah, no, makes sense. So kind of setting the stage for the audience and the viewers, what does your current ownership structure look like? Are you the sole founder and owner? Do you have partners? Do you have outside investors?
Yeah, so I'm the sole founder. However, I have a holding company type structure, and so it's a little
Gotcha.
different in the sense that we have multiple members who own directly into the holding company. And so I
Gotcha. Gotcha.
myself am an owner, but it's broken down based on the LPs that are involved. And so I am running the fund itself as like a typical manager member would, but the holding company itself is split pretty equally across the people who invest into it.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I know a lot of people do that. My dad actually does that. Like he owns a holding company that then owns his
Mhm.
company. If you don't mind me asking, what are the benefits to that? Like, how does that help?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, whenever it comes to entity structuring, it also always comes down to what is the point and what is the benefit that you can draw from that structure.
Hmm.
Typically, in a venture capital scene, just to kind of give an example, they usually operate from a closed-ended fund GPLP setup. And so that allows them to, get in, deploy capital, and essentially get out what they're carrying different incentive structures in place. Their goal is to not retain those assets for an extended period of time and manage it almost like an operator would over time.
Gotcha, gotcha.
However, in my case, because our goal is to take these distressed companies turn them around to cash flow positive and then hold them for an extended period of time, whether they exit via, getting acquired from a private equity company, or whether they just want to keep growing and keep scaling cash flow, or we just want to keep bolting on new acquisitions. It allows us the flexibility to basically have that optionality. So the holding company structure for me, the reason why it works the best in my structuring is one, the long-term flexibility is what I just explained. Two, it allows me to actually have financial controls across the various startups. So let's say, for example, I acquire one startup and it's not doing so well.
Yeah.
And let's say the startup prior to that, we've reached cash flow positive, so it's profitable. When you own 80% or more of a company under a holding company structure, you're actually able to off-write the profits from the losses of another asset you're holding under that structure. And so there's various financial, I would say, mechanisms in place that allow you to de-risk your entire portfolio. And so in this
Gotcha.
aspect, because it's early stage companies, you need as many tools in your arsenal as possible to make whatever, choices you possibly can, especially if you're trying to turn them around.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really just comes down to optionality is really why the holding company structure works. Plus cash flow just always helps more in this structure as well.
Gotcha. So tell me a little bit about what role you currently play in the business. Like, what's a day in the life of Krishan?
Literally everything. Because I'm effectively bootstrapping this fund from the ground up, I am managing fundraising, I am managing investor relations, I am managing pretty much the deal sourcing itself. I am managing the operator bench and getting them included in any project I possibly can right now. The sky's the limit essentially on what I'm involved in, but that's what is required from emerging managers.
Yeah.
So I would simply say whatever problem needs to get solved, that's what I'm effectively doing, which is every single problem. So in a day, I could just be context switching. I could be on a call with a potential acquisition target, helping them solve an issue within their operations, or maybe a conversation that they're having with someone on their board team, to get them, convince them that this is a great opportunity. To later on in the day, I'm creating FP&A models on due diligencing this other startup that we need to understand if we can make it work financially on our end, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So yeah, it's very, very much a context shifting situation in my case.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, wearing multiple hats, it seems.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a it's one of those things where I'm luckily and fortunate that I come from that background myself. I've been chief of staff before, I've led operations. I myself am actually a professional generalist at heart. And so it definitely helps my ability to manage all these different projects. I would say the key thing that's been really keeping me sane, which is sort of a tip for maybe other people that are feeling the same exhaustion from context switching, is I always apply the Pareto principle as much as I possibly can, to what I do, which basically means I'm focusing on the 20% of what drives the rest of the 80%. And so what that
Sure.
means is I always try to stick to two major pathways that influence the rest of the outcomes of what my fund is trying to do. And so for me right now, that is fundraising and deal source generation. And I focus all my efforts. And within those two categories, there's a ton of deliverables, a ton of motions that I need to push on, a ton of problems. But keeping my eye on those two things and really pushing the needle forward on those two, is then what causes the outcomes on the other end. And so that constantly shifts. When a company that I am planning on to acquire comes into the mix, I will then have to swap out one of those two priorities with that other thing. And so that's sort of just how you keep sane in this world of noise to find the signal. And that's pretty much what I've been trying to practice by trade as of recently as well.
Gotcha. And whatever you divide the two, like working in the business, so like the business itself and the job, and working on the business, so strategy. How many hours would you say you're working a week in both areas?
It's a 24/7 gig, but I'm also, look, I'll definitely say I'm not that person who likes to, man, the hustle culture situation out there is very hard to comment on,
Yeah.
because a lot of people like to just put an hour, like hours down, and say I work 80 hours a week and like I grind harder than anyone. And it's like, to me, I actually flip that. I actually say, what is your input and what is your output calculated at? Because you can
Interesting.
you can work a lot of hours on one thing, but the output results to very minimal impact to what you're building or what your
Yeah.
company is going in direction. So what does that really mean then? Does that mean you actually did put in a lot of hours, or is that a lot of wasted hours? And so I feel like in our society, it's really hard to delineate that because there's so many people out there talking about how they're grinding and you want to be just like that. But anyways, my mindset is this is my company. It's a 24/7 gig. And that could mean at any point in time something does happen. But I always try to relatively measure, okay, what are the outputs I'm getting? Am I getting a lot more positive outputs consistently within a week, or am I getting minimal? And depending on that, I'll switch it up. And so
Gotcha.
I'll try to lever, and some things require to bootstrap or cold start, which means you need more hours, but there's still ways to get that output, as accurately as possible, little by little, as you keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things that I try to level out as much as I can. But let me also comment, the one other thing is work-life balance is also on the same vein for me, or in the same vein, something that I don't really agree with to the fullest extent. It's more like finding that balance that works for you and your priorities and what you do hold dear and what you value should come first, not someone else's definition of work-life balance. That doesn't necessarily mean at 5 o'clock you cut off and you do whatever you need to do. It may mean that throughout the day you have certain sprints of work that you need to take care of. And in between, there's an hour or two you spend with your kids or you spend with your parents or whatever that may be. And then you jump right back into work.
Yeah.
And sorry, I know I went on a tangent on this, but one thing I want to make very clear, and that I haven't actually even brought up on this call yet, is so I actually grew up in a motel with my parents
Oh wow.
and my family. And as a second generation American, when my parents married, they were gifted a 20-unit motel in Martinez, California as a wedding gift. And granted, they don't have any formal education. They didn't come from any sophisticated backgrounds, but yet they had to run this small unit, like 20-unit motel, and make sure it's successful. Otherwise, we had no other choice. And so to me, this is where a lot of this philosophy has pretty much matured, is because growing up in the motel dynamic, you're going to school full time, you're answering phone calls randomly, you basically have to cater to that property, but also you have a personal life living with your family too, right? It would be
Yeah.
like during dinner time, a customer would walk into the office, and my dad would have to stop mid-meal and go and greet the customer and help. Same goes for
Yeah.
all of us, right? And so my understanding of that was always like there was always a blurred line in between both personal life and work life. So that's why I also have this very interesting kind of approach to it, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you're like the real life sweet life of Zach and Cody. That's actually super cool. I
One
don't know if
could
you've heard
wish,
that
man.
before, but
Yeah, no, I definitely have actually heard that, which is kind of funny.
um so I'm curious, why'd you choose to go into business for yourself as opposed to choosing to work for someone else? I know you said that you worked at another company for a while. What was the transition like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be straight. I mean, growing up in that motel dynamic, I would say a lot of my entrepreneurial spirit was built and formed in those pretty much formative years of mine. I've always had that same thought process. If I wanted my own company, I need my own platform. But I also knew I had to pay my dues. And so for other managers and other people out there who are aiming to start their own company, there's obviously not one path to doing that. Some people will go and start a business from scratch with very little experience or practical knowledge, and they'll kind of just figure it out as it goes. And some do well with that, some struggle. Some people work in an industry or a certain business for X amount of years, and then they start a business once they feel comfortable. For me, it was a bit of both. I had a very strong thesis as to what I wanted to gain in terms of practical skills and knowledge-based sort of industry knowledge. And from there, every single job I pretty much grabbed in startups or in venture, the goal was I had a thesis of what I needed to take from that specifically
Yeah.
and what skills did I need to grab. And so every job I pretty much moved on to and worked with, I was able to build an arsenal of skills as a generalist to get to a point of maturity where I felt the threshold of what I could gain from working for someone else pretty much didn't feel the same as it did when I first started. And
Hmm.
so when you couple that with the fact that I had also a first fund that I launched in 2021, um, I was also waiting for that to mature at the right place, right time, so that while I was gaining experience, my first fund was maturing. So when both hit, I could actually go and start this fund that I started now. And
Yeah.
so essentially that's what I did for the past 6 years. I just focused on, okay, I have this fund. Once it matures, I'll have the startup funding that I sowed myself in order to get, the initial injection of capital I need to start the second fund and the reputation and all of the different accolades that usually come with that. And while I do that, I'm not just going to sit and wait around and just kind of wait for things to come to me. I need to make sure I'm prepared at the end of that road that when that money does come, I can actually be serious about what I'm doing and walk the walk and talk the talk kind of situations. And so um, that entrepreneurial spirit really tied into that. And from there, the game plan tied into that. And I would say I felt this way probably since I was in high school that I wanted my own company and wanted to do this and not take orders from anyone. But hey, everyone has their own path. So
Yeah,
that was mine
exactly.
essentially.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I also grew up in a very entrepreneurial household. My dad started his own company whenever I was like 4 years old, and has been
Hmm.
working in email marketing basically since I was four. So I grew up kind of in that space and got to see a lot of that and loved marketing, but didn't necessarily love email. So now I do more like videography style marketing and stuff on my own, growing my
Hmm.
own business and doing this as well. So it's it's always cool getting to see it as a kid and then see how it shapes you as you get older.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I feel like when you're younger, you kind of are just like I don't want to do this. Like like
Yeah.
I don't really like you kind of have this understanding that it's a hindrance and that it's
Hmm.
not valuable to you because when you're a kid, right? Like Saturday mornings, we were responsible for cleaning rooms and helped my parents cleaning rooms. I had a job, I had to clean cabinets while my parents were cleaning the bathrooms, making the beds. I'm like doing my part, and you're doing that across 20 rooms on a Saturday morning when cartoons are on prime time
Yeah.
hours. You're just like, you're driving yourself crazy. And so, but coming from that background, you you basically just have to do it because there's no other choice.
Yeah.
But if I had a choice back then, and obviously I did what I wanted to do as a kid, I would have not gathered all of those types of mentalities that then later on I look back and I was like, wow, actually, this is a very unique upbringing, and not a lot of people do this. And that alone is
Yeah.
a moat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have similar stories. My dad had me work on just because he wanted me to, had me work on and write my first email campaign whenever I was 12 years old, you
Nice.
know. And I don't think that email campaign did well at all, but I wrote one whenever I was 12 for him. And that was my first time really getting to work in marketing, and I did not want to do it at all. But now looking back on it, it's helped me a lot with understanding how, to help market companies and how to make
Yeah.
companies, what they need. And also, it kind of like started my love for algorithms. And now I love looking
Hmm.
at all the social media algorithms and how to study them and
Hmm.
all that. So it's kind of cool how it helps shape you all the way to now, even if you
Yeah.
hated it in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Those first principles and fundamentals, I feel like for specifically right now in this current world of AI, the biggest differentiator is the people that have actually gone and paid their dues and they've done the tedious, gritty work that most
Hmm.
people um, typically try to avoid. Those are the people that are using AI and actually getting to the next levels.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like a lot of people outsourcing their critical thinking, the ones who didn't go and create their first marketing campaign, which probably was very gruesome, very difficult, can be unsuccessful as well multiple times. But you can inch closer to that knowledge and intellect and competency that other people won't be able to get to if you
Yeah.
did the other
Yeah.
path.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so I'm curious, what makes your business unique? Like, how do you communicate to your customers how you stand out against your competition?
Yeah, I mean, in our case, just to clarify, our customers are sort of two ways. We have our LPs, which
Hmm.
basically are the investors in the holding company. So we effectively have to convince them, hey, this is worth investing in, and this is worth, parking your money and being a part of the vision and cause. And then we have the other side, which are the acquisition targets and the
Gotcha.
startups themselves that we purchase and acquire. Um, and so they're both innately different. Um, Pitches from the LP side makes a lot of sense. It's always straightforward. Hey, for every dollar, you'll get X amount of money back, right? I would say the real crux of what I'm building focuses more on the startup side and the opco side of what we're trying to do, and that's primarily when you're a startup and let's say you have 12 months of runway left and you've been working for the past 4 to 5 years and you're just grinding every day and you're exhausted. VCs keep telling you every quarter, hey, you need to get your numbers up, you need to do this, you need to do that. You have team members who are leaving, you have circumstances where your business model has hit a ceiling and you just can't break out of it. Now you're at 12 months of runway and VCs are saying, hey, and granted, this is part of their model, but they basically kind of exit themselves out of the situation. Now you're stuck with this lopsided margin company where you're like, I need more money to get us fixed, but no one will give us money either because from a business standpoint, no venture debt or bank will give us a loan. Private equity won't touch us because we don't fit their thesis. We're too risky. And VC's already walked out. So then they're in this really interesting place where psychologically everything just feels very desperate and you almost kind of fall every month runway goes down, you start to go deeper
Hmm.
and deeper into despair. And what could have been a good business earlier on and could have just been a cash flow generating business instead of being a unicorn, they probably could have been $100 million business or a $200 million business
Yeah.
printing cash, right? And so our job going in and what makes us different is trying to get in before that despair level reaches a certain threshold and really providing the support and care and the guidance and the mentorship to get them to cash flow positive first and foremost, while providing them with the resources that they need to do that. And so one may think, wow, that's a really compelling offer, and that should be something all distressed startups should consider. But honestly speaking, it's such a noisy environment. It's such an emotionally conflating environment where it's really, really hard to find logic in those types of situations, right? When we're at our most down, we're not the most logical creatures, right? And most of the time, if you've worked on something and it's your baby, you're effectively like, why would I give up 51% of this
Yeah.
overnight? Like, there's no way. There has to be another answer. And the longer you hold on, the worse it gets. And people like myself effectively start to see the asset decline too much to the point where we can't even help. And
Yeah.
so really the value prop is we're giving a second chance to these founders and to these companies, and we're actually putting them back onto the path of being a really good business so we can retain the founders, get them upside, retain the teams, and retain the product and service that they've been giving to their customers.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And if you don't mind me asking, so with this type of business model, how is it profitable for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's profitable in the sense that once you get the company to cash flow positive, the valuation of this asset you bought already increases. So
Gotcha.
if you're buying a startup that's cash flow negative and its ARR is stuck or whatever that may be, typically how it's underwritten, it's not our opinion that this company is worth X amount, right?
Hmm.
It's the company at its place in time right now. If you were to just forecast it forward, it will basically fail in the next 5, 6, 12 months. So, right.
Yeah.
And so we effectively go in and we try to underwrite it in such a way where we get a discount, obviously, on acquisition because there's further capital going in. And
Yeah.
once we get it to cash flow break even, the valuation automatically doubles or triples depending on what the industry it's in. But the real kicker for us is once you start to gain 30K in profit, 40K, 100K, and so on and so forth in profit, we can actually funnel those profits into the treasury. And then we make a decision. Does this company need follow on capital for it to grow faster? Or can we use this capital to then purchase our next asset as well? And so we start to have all these options with cash in the bank that allows us to then go on and acquire another company and rinse and repeat. So now you basically have an index of startups that were once distressed, but now generating profits that you can start to funnel and de-risk one another with cash in an overall like bank account essentially.
That's super
So we
interesting.
we get yeah we essentially get carry from the valuations that increase over time in the holding company, and the cash itself we can do distributions back to our LPs, so on and so forth. So the sky's the limit once you have cash in the bank. You can
Yeah.
literally do whatever you need to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Kind of transitioning the conversation into marketing. Like I told you, I have a marketing background.
Mhm.
So I'm always curious what successful businesses are doing. Um, Typically, like in something like this, what is like a marketing strategy that y'all use like to find these businesses? And how
Yeah,
many of them do you use?
I'm probably gonna have to ping you after this to get your understanding on algorithms on social media, but it's really tough because my personal take, I'm gonna just be clear. I am not a social media person at baseline. I've
Yeah.
always been operator and execution focused first, and building in secret, kind of value driven in that mindset. But I also understand in order to play the game, you have to be involved in social media and different marketing strategies. Um, I would say I err on the side of trying to build proprietary pipelines and relationships on the back end first and foremost. And that's usually what drives deal flow and different areas of opportunity for the fund itself, because to
Gotcha.
me, that's a very strong value driven ad that you can't just get anywhere, right? But that also
Yeah,
comes with its
definitely.
own inherent complexities. But I also understand that in order to gain credibility, I need to also put myself out there and put the fund out there. So I have been
Mhm.
posting on LinkedIn, I have been posting on X. I'm trying to get more involved in responses, commenting, liking, all those different things like that. It's definitely not as strong as it needs to be, but because a lot of what I'm doing, it requires a lot more tact. I'm the marketing side has not been the main primary focus as of recently. So
Yeah.
I would say my marketing's more like I'm trying to build relationships in secret through warm introductions and things like that.
Yeah, which is actually perfect. You're doing it the right way. I have like a three step process to marketing that I tell
Hmm.
any company or anyone that I work with, which is where like number one foundational building is your network. You need to make sure
Hmm.
that you have a network of people that can create a word of mouth like funnel for you. That is the
Hmm.
number one baseline you always need. Then after that is LinkedIn and website. Those are
Hmm.
that's the second thing that you always hit is LinkedIn and website to build that credibility, like you just said. And then also build, maybe you'll find a couple clients through LinkedIn if you build enough credibility from that first funnel that you create. And then the
Hmm.
third one is where I really dive heavily into like other social media platforms, things like Instagram or TikTok
Hmm.
or YouTube and YouTube Shorts. That's like your final foundation because if you haven't built the
Hmm.
first two, the third one's going to absolutely fail because
Hmm.
there's no market for you already that's going to follow you and look at you, so you have nothing in place. So you're definitely doing it the right way where you're building your network foundation and your LinkedIn profiles before you go tackle the bigger social media platforms.
I appreciate that. Yeah, let's hope I get that network up and running before I have to start doing dances on TikTok and
Yeah.
go in that direction.
Yeah, TikTok's a funny one now because with it's been bought now by American companies. It just got bought by Oracle in the
Yeah, I think
last
yeah.
10 days. So I'm 3 hours of my day every day is trying to figure out this new freaking algorithm because they've already changed how it works entirely.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot
I can
more
imagine.
a lot more censorship than before, which isn't bad, but it's trying to figure out, okay, what can I say? What am I not allowed to say? What will get my video? They don't do a lot of taking down on TikTok like they will on
Hmm.
YouTube unless it's like glaringly bad, but they
Yeah,
do a ton of shadow banning where
yeah.
like if you say stuff that's like too much about business and is obviously too much an ad sometimes, they'll shadow ban your account and then you'll go from getting
Mm,
5,000 to 6,000 views to 20 views. And it's like, it's very
yeah.
obvious when you get shadow banned. It's just trying to figure out how to not allow that to happen sometimes is annoying.
Yeah, it's really tough, man. Algorithms and also just trying to put yourself out there in a very saturated
Yeah.
place. It's just very difficult because you have to cut through the noise some way, somehow. And yeah, I try to,
Yeah.
I think one thing that I've been trying to keep myself true to is I've been trying to, anytime I write or anything like that, I am not generating it via AI. I am
Yeah.
purely writing what I need to write and posting it manually. Not because I can't just go spin up AI agents and just get this pipeline going and get people to try to bait click wherever I can. I just feel like for me, what's more important is I'm being genuine in the writing, and
Hmm.
that instead of trying to get 1,000 likes, I just need one person to read what I post and get value out of it.
Yeah.
Like there was a post I made about a framework or a decision tree for founders that felt stuck. And I put a lot of effort into it. And it essentially allowed founders to look at it and then go down certain decision tree of where they're stuck and how they're stuck. And then it provided them with pretty much a framework or a breakdown of like where you're at and what you need to probably start considering in a
Yeah.
very real pragmatic approach. This wasn't like a high level, oh, like, you should think about selling. It's like, oh, you might need to cut X amount of your team. You might need to do this and that. And it was very, very straightforward. And it wasn't a high yield liking post on LinkedIn, but I had one individual reach out and he legitimately was like, "Hey, we're a startup. We probably fit between, pathways A and B. And I really feel like this is like something worth exploring." And that led to
Yeah.
us going into a diligence process with this company. And we've been happy with this process since. And so to me, it stays true to the value driven aspect of social media, which I feel is lost in today's day because everyone's
Agree.
just doing the low hanging fruit. But I feel like my opinion and where I hope things go is eventually algorithms will start to parse through the AI generated bots and all these different processes and actually focus on people who are being more genuine and writing their own posts and different things like that. Engagement would go down, I would say, at a scale, but the quality of using the platforms would go back up, is what I would hope to be.
Yeah, and it's already kind of shifting that way. At least it was before this acquisition.
Hmm.
In a way where it's like if you have like a very obviously AI generated post in some capacity, specifically, let's use LinkedIn for example, and your post is
Hmm.
obviously everything that you've written for the post is generated by AI. You
Hmm.
might get more likes, but you're gonna get less engagement overall, which is
Yeah, yeah.
and most of the time, the likes that you are getting are probably other AI bots that are liking it.
Hmm.
Um, where, like the post that you made, you actually got the desired outcome out of it. The likes don't
Yeah,
matter at the end of the day as long as you get the acquisition at the end. So,
yeah.
that's a lot of like the stuff that I think that I preach and talk about is like AI. Yes, you might get more quote unquote outreach, but you're not going to get more of the end goal, which is more sales or more people to talk
Yeah,
to about your
yeah,
company or anything like that. Where if you actually take the time and you take the 2 hours or hour it takes to write a post, and really detail what you want to say, you're going to get more outreach from that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It feels good though at the same time when you do it. It's more like venting or some kind of way to have an outlet of some sort too. So,
Yeah, yeah. I have a love-hate relationship with AI because I think it helps in a ton of ways. I really do.
yeah,
But I have a real hatred for generative AI a lot, whether it be generating posts or generating videos or photos or anything like that. I also work in the film space, film and TV
hmm,
space. I went to school for film and TV production and marketing, so I have
hmm.
a film background as well, and so I'm inherently built to hate generative AI. Um, but I kind of feel like the market's been on my side whenever it comes to generative AI, at least over the last 6 months. It feels like it's kind of taken a shift to being
Yeah.
like, this is going in a negative direction that's going to impact people's lives in 5 to 10 years. So,
Yeah, we're social creatures, and we there's only so much efficiency we can take before it starts to irk people and give them the ick, and then it just goes against everything. When everyone starts doing it, then it's too late, kind of
yeah, I mean, there
situation.
was there was a thing that came out that said that OpenAI like lost like $5 billion or something last year, overall
Hmm.
um, because of like less users signing up than the year before, and like they also don't have a proper AdSense program because they don't want to put ads on ChatGPT and stuff like that because then it's going to create a trickle
Yeah.
down funnel that will lose people. So there's currently this bubble with AI where they don't really know how to use it to create like generate money right now, and
Yeah.
I think they're and like if they put ads into something like ChatGPT, I think that the user level is just going to go down drastically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's a lot of competition in the space too. That's a whole another conversation that we could probably go for hours on as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. So out of curiosity, with a business like how you have, do you guys use like a CRM to kind of track leads, or is it more just kind of like remembering people and writing them in like a spreadsheet?
It's we use Crunchbase right now
Crunchbase,
because
gotcha.
it's a lot easier, but they don't have all the data on every single company out there, so it's a little mix. Like I'll have an Excel sheet that's like the main source of truth, but it feeds mostly into Crunchbase. It's just
Gotcha.
the easiest right now because deal flow is not so high to the point where I can't manage and control it, and we're not doing outbound market, like we're not doing outbound sourcing right now. All my
Gotcha, gotcha.
sourcing is coming inbound through warm introductions because my thesis requires a very high quality approach. And so I'm
Hmm.
not doing a numbers velocity type of game here because one, I don't have the bandwidth to do it and I don't have the full marketing or sales team to do it. And then two, it's a lot quicker to do almost like an account-based marketing approach where I will go speak to very high yield individuals who have high touch points to distressed assets and work with them,
Yeah.
try to partner if I can formally, and try to keep top of their mind. So instead of me trying to manage, thousands of outbounds, I can manage maybe 5 to 10 people and constantly stay in touch with them and work with them.
Yeah.
And they have access to thousands and thousands of companies that could potentially fit. And so that's how I've been managing things so far.
Yeah. Um, so kind of switching up to team building. How big is y'all's team? How many members y'all got?
So right now I'm the only full-time myself. I have an operator bench though
Gotcha.
of people who go in as they're essentially think of them as a SWAT team. So I have a
Hmm.
SWAT team of people I've worked with in the past myself, and they're hard vetted and people that come from early stage pretty much dynamics. Um, and either they have their own agencies or they're currently working for a different agency or so on and so forth. I'm able to go and tap into those levers whenever I need them. So for right now, for how early I am, I don't need to retain full-time employees in-house because that is what keeps my cost structure down. But
Yeah.
also, you don't need, so for example, if you go into an early stage company, it's very nuanced. The differences from company A to company B can be the difference of this company has spent a lot on product and market, like product and tech, and they built very strong distribution channels. They have very strong marketing, but their margins are very bad because the founder may not be the most tech oriented person. So they're leaking cash because they haven't built that up correctly. Whereas on the startup B side, it could be a founder who's very product and tech oriented, but they're not the best at sales and storytelling. So maybe
Yeah.
they haven't built the strongest distribution channels and their sales are struggling. And so if I were to have a full team on retainer, I would be paying for, if I found startup A, I would be paying for essentially a sales and go-to-market expert where it's not really needed. Whereas my product and tech operator bench player would be a lot more needed in this deal to get them to cash flow positive. So I'm able to call on these different areas if I need them when it
Yeah.
happens. And early on, that's just the best way to do it when you're bootstrapped. It's very practical in approach. So, but to your point on team building, that is something I pride myself on in the sense that even if whether you have direct employees or you have indirect relationships, it doesn't matter because who you are is your brand. And so all the years I spent working with these individuals over the time span of the past 5 to 6 years in startups. And startups are unique in the sense that you're essentially in the trenches with these people. And you can't hide who you really are when you're working alongside someone in very fast-paced pressure cooker type environments. But I also knew way back when the goal is to have my own business in the future. So every single person I meet can be essentially a partner or a relationship that I could leverage in a positive way later on when I do start my business. So
Yeah.
team building, the thing I would leave with is your personal brand, how you approach people, how you treat people, how you operate with them, and the dynamic of reciprocity in those situations is very telling of how long those relationships will most likely last. And I would say the biggest thing that I learned in the past 5 to 6 years when it comes to a relationship driven building aspect is it it doesn't matter how smart or competent you are. There's so many more people out there smarter than me in X, Y, and Z things. There's so many brilliant people out there. But at the end of the day, people will always try to choose people they enjoy working with and that it is a pleasure to be working with them. And that's something that I've learned that they're more like if you're trying to close a sales contract and there's a salesperson who's very, very smart at what their product is, what they do, but they're very coarse or just not that type of person who feels like you could build a relationship with them versus a salesperson. This other salesperson is just very personable. They understand your problem intimately. They may not understand product and tech well on their own side, but they're more likely to close the deal strictly because of that relationship aspect and the fact that they know down the road they can count on them from a personality standpoint and they don't have to worry about that being an issue. So they can focus on their own problems instead. Um,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah. And, I think if you're ready, we'll probably transition to a couple rapid fire questions.
sure. Yeah.
What is the key to success for you?
Oh man. Um, I would say building a network of partners and people around me that all are hardwired to love and want to solve this distressed startup problem.
Awesome. What is your one piece of advice for other business owners?
Oh man. Um, don't listen to business advice on the internet and try to implement it into your everyday just because it makes you feel better. Just do the hard
Love
work
that.
and listen directly to the problems. All the answers are there.
Yeah, I love that. That's you're speaking my language. What is a book or podcast you're reading or listening to right now?
Oh man, there are so many. A book that I'm rereading right now is man, what is the name of the book? I just forgot it. It was just in my head. Um oh, Machiavelli, The Prince. That's the one I'm reading right now. There's so many that I cycle through in terms of podcasts and books. But yeah, trying to read about social dynamics again and kind of re-up on my psychology background.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. My wife's actually went to school for psychology and she's going back for
Same.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's going back
Nice.
for her master's right now
Amazing.
in counseling and therapy. So
Okay.
she's
Nice.
specifically studying in divorce households because she grew up in a divorce household.
Okay.
So she wants to
Uh-huh.
work with the kids that are going through a divorce household and kind of help
Hmm.
them through that. So
Yeah, no, that's a very, very just cause. It's psychology, in my opinion, everyone should learn it at
yeah.
baseline, no matter what. It's such a and I'm not saying in the sense of just pure therapy or counseling. I'm saying like from a fundamentals like
Hmm.
knowing your consciousness and how it operates, it's like the blueprint to a lot of solutions. It would help you a lot more if you learned it early in life from a first principles perspective, so that you have
Yeah.
the right tools.
Yeah, no, I've studied a lot of psychology. I took some psychology classes in high school and in college and loved it. I took
Hmm.
psychology and sociology, but
Hmm.
never went all the way through with it. Ended up going in a different direction. But yeah,
Yeah.
psychology is
But it
great.
touches
Just
everything. I mean, I'm sure in marketing,
Mhm.
film, everything, it
Yeah.
touches literally everything. So,
Yeah, I mean, even in film, like a lot of people don't think about like the psychology of it, where it's like, okay,
yeah.
psychologically, we want to use this camera angle because it's going to provoke this emotion. So
Yeah.
if we film a death murder scene on a wide shot, you're not going to feel as scared as if you feel as if it's a close up angle of someone dying while you're
Yeah.
doing a
Yeah.
dolly in on their face. If you do something
Yeah.
like that, you're going to get way more of an
Yeah.
emotional response from an audience member than you will the other way around. So there's a
Yeah.
ton of psychology that goes into filmmaking, and in marketing as well, with just like how do you touch people? How do you get people to respond to X, Y, or Z? So yeah, there's a ton of it.
Absolutely.
So this is kind of a fun question I always like to ask. If you had a little bit of magic dust and you could choose one spot in your business to sprinkle it and everything would be perfect, where would it be and why?
Oh, oh my God. Fundraising. Just because
Fundraising?
fundraising is not it's not my it's going well, but at the same time it is not my strength in terms of what gets me out of bed every morning, and that's
Yeah.
what's been very difficult because it's a lot of socializing, it's a lot of, shaking hands, kissing babies, it's a lot of working with people who may see the vision, may not, and it's very exhausting, and I always love operating way more and just fixing problems. And so I
Yeah.
would say if I could just solve that problem overnight and sprinkle some magic dust on it, that would definitely be the one.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I'm kind of the same way. In the film world, I work mostly as a producer, which is literally
Hmm.
the same thing as an operator for a business. I just fix all the problems, put out all the fires, make sure everything's good. The problem with also being a producer is I'm the one who has to find the money. So if
Yeah.
I'm working on a
Yeah.
project, I have to go to fundraising events or I have to go meet with potential investors and stuff and be like and try to put up the value for the project to be like, all right, now I need $25,000. And it's yeah, that's the downside of it, where doing the other side of like actually like putting out the fires and making sure like
The
all the
business
crews are
side.
doing it. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot more fun for me than having to go and shake hands and kiss babies like you said. It's and then ask them
100%,
for
man.
money afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the way, so are you interested? Let me get back to you. And then you're like, oh,
Yeah,
now I gotta add this person and follow up with them 2 weeks from now and just get pretty led on or do whatever. And then you're
yeah,
timesing that by 100 people. That becomes a job
exactly.
in its own.
Exactly. It can be exhausting to say the least. Well, before we get to the final question of the day, do you want to share with the audience how they can follow you, learn more, and contact you? Most of our audience, by the way, is other business owners. So hopefully, if you're watching
Mhm.
this, Christian can help you in some capacity if your business isn't doing well. So
Yeah, so I would say the best place to follow is on LinkedIn. So that's linkedin.com/ Christian-N-Patel. And I would say the next best place is to just submit a form via my website that if you scroll all the way down at laplacecap.com, you'll be able to get in contact me with me as well. But I would say LinkedIn is the best way to DM me because then I can share my email and go different things like that.
awesome, awesome. Well, we've come to the final question of the day, and that is, what is most inspiring to you today?
Oh man, just getting up and just doing and building your own company, man. I know that sounds very cliche, but I think it's a privilege. I am very much on the side of living the American dream. I know that's been a lost concept in today's day, but growing up in a second generation American family where my dad came from India and literally worked at this motel, and now he's got at least 15 million in property value, just growing and expanding his business when he came from a poor village in India. Same with my mom in a sense. And just having the opportunity to build every day is definitely a privilege. And in this environment, it just feels great to be in this position and be able to say that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed getting to hear your story. So thank you so much for sharing. I just encourage all of you watching to save the show and come back and watch it again because Christian really did have some great insights for business. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so we get notifications every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thanks to you, Christian, for being with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you again for your time.
Of course, man. And I hope that you all have a great day.